Welcome to the second episode of Self-Leadership Sessions. In this one, I'm going to talk about the creation process for Module 2 and my main takeaways on the journey on my entrepreneurship. And I don't know where to start. It's been a real test when it comes to self-trust and also faith and not abandoning myself and really persistence and commitment. And all of these, I think my whole journey during the last 2 years has really reflected my own relationship to myself. It has taught me so much of how much I project onto other people, my own sense of worth, my own relationship to assertiveness, and also my inner critic. And I'm very grateful because if I did not go outside my comfort zone, I wouldn't expand and have the capacity and awareness that I have today. And that is my main goal in life. I want to expand and shed all the limiting beliefs and become greater and experience more and more. And my motivation and my driving force has always been to liberate myself of limiting beliefs. And I've had a lot of limiting beliefs. They paralyzed me, so I did not express myself. I didn't feel like I was myself at all around people. I had this darkness and victim mentality, just like of hopelessness, feeling like it would never get better. In this dark kind of mentality and outlook on life, this hopelessness, it's kind of like rock bottom. And I thought that it must be better. It must get better than this. This can't be it. So this has made me search for the majority of my life, that I realized that there has to be something else. I'm not doing it right. I must understand more. And I'm very grateful for this push and this kind of grit mentality that I've had. And it's been also, I remember saying when I was 15 that I do not want to settle. I do not want to settle. And this was at the point where I didn't go to school because I had social phobia. I was at home all the time, just watching YouTube, binge eating, and searching for answers in books. And I still identified as someone that did not want to settle. I wanted more out of life. And I believe that this kind of defense mechanism grows out of an inferiority complex. So I felt so inferior to other people that my ego had to feel superior in order to socially survive. So this kind of made me have this feeling of, I want to achieve more. There has to be more. There is a purpose. And this superiority in its shadow can be damaging when it comes to relating to other people. It's not very humble, of course. But it made me have this motivation to continue on. And that is something beautiful. That is like the faith and the drive that got me out of it. And it's kept me going. And this is something that I've been faced with. This is the main core wound, I would say, in my company, that I go from inferior to superior as a coping mechanism, and then I feel inferior again. I give up hope. I feel like I don't know where to go. I feel so much shame of being inadequate and not good enough, and this all gets triggered from worries of the future and not having or focusing on analytics and so on, and being able to hold this and continue going on, because I am aware of that this is my soul's longing, that I want to do this, and extracting the codependence on external validation. And there is a part of me that despises this process, that does not like it at all, because it's so much easier to just receive external validation than to actually give yourself the validation. And again, there's another side of me that does appreciate and like this process, because it makes me also not a slave to external validation. Because if I only do what people give me praise for, I will become very dependent. But if I think back to my time when I was at my worst, and the phrasing of "I do not settle," this goes along with that perfectly, because I do not want to be in this paradigm where we are dependent on others' validation. I want to completely eliminate that idea and just do my own thing. And that is liberation for me, and I value liberation so much. I want to just completely be myself without having this censorship. That is my highest, that is my ideal, that I do not change what I say, and I do not people please, because I've had a long past history of doing that. I worked in customer service, where you are conditioned to people please all the time, and I worked a lot of years in customer service, so it has been a lot of realizing how much that has shaped me, and how people pleasing is basically you are socially putting yourself down in order to meet their expectations that you project. And while doing that, you kind of malleable or you kind of shapeshift in order to say the right thing. There is no connection to how the self is feeling. You are a sellout, basically. And I started to get so much resistance to this sellout feeling of myself, that I kept on saying things that I knew was expected. I kept on laughing when I didn't find it funny. Every time I did, I felt this deep sense of it was morally wrong for me to do this, because I felt like I was abandoning myself when I did. And that is it was so extreme, to a point where I did not want to be a part of society at all. I kept isolating myself and wanting to live by myself to re-find myself. And with that came the longing to do FitByFood, to do my own company, to be myself totally, and just give back what I learned about nutrition, about the body, the mind connection, the habits, the thoughts, how thoughts form our reality. All of this, I want to be myself 100% in contact with who I am in the core, and just give it to other people without having to carry out this role play of being a boutique servant or working at a call center. I just want to be myself. And the way that I can think of how I am able to be myself is having my own company where I am the boss, so I can put the frameworks on how I want to show up. And that has also been like the driving force to do FitByFood, because I do not want to do anything else. I want to be just compensated for being myself, and also when being compensated for being myself, deepening my feeling of being myself to inspire others. This is the highest idea that I can imagine living my life, of just being myself and inspiring others to be themselves and not be sellouts, and be in contact with their own bodies and healing their relationship to food and being empowered. There's no better, I can't think of another version of living that is better than this. That is my ideal. And in order for going towards that ideal, a lot of inferiority and superiority has really made me have played a lot of games with me in this process. And I realize how universally wounded we are when it comes to worth. And this is more module 3, but it's really come up a lot, especially during module 2. And that is kind of interesting. Because we are conditioned and we are taught that we want or need external validation in order to be enough for society. We are taught that we need to be efficient, we want to be normal, we want to fit into the line and not stick out too much, because if we do, we're scared that we will be socially abandoned. So every time we do something that is abnormal, there is this inner voice that kicks up, that judges us internally, so that we are not going to be a social pariah. And this is the inner voice, the inner critic, that keeps us imprisoned in this hamster wheel. Just keeps us going after what we are expected to do. And I want to liberate myself and you from this zombified way of living. I want us to realize that we are empowered in our life, that we decide what we give our energy to. And this feels like the most important thing that one can do, to take back where they are projecting and criticizing themselves from voices that they have learned from the outside. So this can be just having the idea hovering over you at work, where you feel like, I'm not quick enough. That you feel this internal stress that you need to be productive and fast enough so that your colleagues and your boss think that you are enough. This is an idea of where this pressure is internalized. When we just feel that feeling of internal stress and let it dictate us, it has power over us. But if we question it and realize, is it really true? Then we take back our power. So if you are feeling an internal stress at work, if you do not just obey that feeling of pressure and realize that you have internalized a pressure from the outside, and then slow down or just change you pattern interrupt, you do something with more intention, or you take a break or something to change that energy that make you feel like you have to do something, then you take back your power. And we are so driven by these internalized supposed ways of being that we feel drained. There are so many social conditioned rules that everyone follow that we don't feel like we have a choice. We feel disempowered towards our external circumstances. Another way is when we internalize or criticize how we dress because we're scared of what people will think. This is also the internal criticized version that we have adopted from being with people and seeing what is approved and not, what is not socially acceptable, and then being scared of this happening to us. So let's say we put on a sweater and then we look in the mirror and we liked it first, but then we start to second guess the sweater and think, what will they think of this sweater? And then we start to doubt, and then we pick something more safe. Maybe just something black, because we are not brave enough to choose the other shirt because we allowed outside forces to control us. We betrayed our own impulse of what we wanted to wear because we allowed the controlling energy of the collective to influence our behavior and our expression. And if you think about it, this is not freedom. This is not freedom because we internalized the social condition from our upbringing, from our childhood up until the now time, from the social rules that what is appropriate and what is not. And then we internalize that into an inner critic, an inner judge that tells us what to do so that we can be a part of the tribe, a part of the group. And while doing that, we repress certain things about ourselves, certain preferences or ideas, and we just abide the social rules. And this can be, there's so many examples. Let's say at work you are with a colleague and you feel an impulse to mention something, but then your internalized judge thinks, no, I can't say that because that will make me sound weird. This is also a controlling form that you do not follow your instincts, share from your heart, and then you just repress and stay safe. And during module 2, because I got distracted now from this whole just tangent or rant about conditioning and liberation. It's so important. So module 2, in my creating of this time it was not as critical, because that is something for me personally. Socially, I project so much this internalized inner critic, the internalized judge of right and wrong things to do. And this comes out when I put on the camera or when I am about to film, and I just think of things that are appropriate to say and what are not. And if I can say it that way, or if people will understand what I'm saying. And that censorship really disconnects me from the flow of what I want to communicate. And that has been the biggest challenge for me in creating FitByFood, because there is so much importance that I put onto this. that I feel like this is so precious to me, so I must say it in a perfect way. And this idea that there is a perfection or the perfect way to communicate and express and be when I am doing and creating this system is what really has killed the flow for me and made it much more challenging and testing than it had to be, because there will never come a point where I feel prepared to do it if I don't just start. And that has been the biggest lesson, that I just have to put on the microphone, put on the camera, and just go. Because if I compare it to this ideal version of how it can look, then I will be disconnected from my soul, from my authentic expression. And what I'm sharing now and what I'm filming when I'm filming is enough. And I can always add more onto it. Because I have that I want to say everything all at once. And that internal pressure then becomes so loaded with importance. And that activates the inferiority feeling, and then the superiority comes in, and so on. So with this module, I've been much kinder to myself and just had this flow of putting enough space. So filming maybe 2-3 videos per day, filming day. And especially when I was on my period, I didn't have anything like filming to do. I gave myself some space and grace, and just kept going with this idea that it will kind of like this curiosity and excitement of how will it turn out. Because in the end, it turns out exactly how it was meant to be. And I was not as focused on this externalized image that I have of the perfect module. So I was much more allowing the process and enjoying the process, because that was also something really insightful from module 1. And it was very fun to do this module. It was very good to organize my thoughts, because the modules are my own experience and journey compressed into 3 modules. And module 1 was the biggest module for me to film, because there is so much information about nutrition that needs to be really laid down into the foundation. And there's fact checking, and I have to communicate it in the right way. So there was a lot of pressure internally for me, and also it was the first module, so there was this whole lesson for me about perfectionism and the joy of creating. And then module 2 felt easier, because psychology is both psychology and neuroscience is so like hobbies of mine, that it was fun to talk about. And it wasn't as much pressure. And that also really helped. And there's so much more videos in module 2 than module 1. Because module 1 was also a lot of interactive material. There's the FitByFood game to learn nutrition, and there's texts and quiz, and there's like an app to register your meals and so on. But module 2 is more, I share information about habits and the mind, and then talk to the camera. And there's of course text still, but there's much more like visual components. So it was for me a lot of focus on filming, and it was very fun, and I felt like I had so much things that landed for me. and especially the whole piece about worthiness and superior and inferior complex. And it actually inspired me to write a new book. So this book will be more about the psychology behind this wounding that we have as a society, and not be as focused on the eating aspect of it, but more general. And I'm not sure where and how and when this will be published, but it will of course be in the store at the getfitbyfood.com website, but it will be more psychology. And I'm very excited. I feel every time that I write this book that things just come up, and I feel very inspired. And the whole topic of worth has really been this, last few years, I feel like it's been very central for me. And it's very connected to both validation externally, but also when it comes to money. And that has been why it's been so pressuring for me to create my company at the time that I'm doing it, because me and my partner are also renovating our home. So there's a lot of expenses, and I decided with my impeccable timing that I'm going to create my dream company right now. In the midst of this the whirlwind of new things happening. This is now that I felt like I need to do this. So there's been this financial pressure also on top of it that's made me really put a lot of importance on FitByFood. And that has also been a very interesting journey when it comes to value and money, and being fearful of the lack and scared of the future. And that really connects a lot with the topic of importance of pressure and being in insistence that something must happen. And that makes me have so much anxiety around the company that of course it will put a halt on my own enjoyment of the company if I do that, because I want the company to be light and breezy and regulated. Of course, if I really put a lot of importance on the company and on this being my mission, it will kill all the flow, of course. So it's also allowed me to implement this more chill approach to FitByFood and creation and my company. So in the end, it's really taught me a lot about having patience. And in the same on the same wavelength, it's taught me faith. It's taught me responsibility when it comes to my vision and my path. And that is the interesting thing then, again, with value. That's not the external validation from other people, but my own commitment and the enjoyment of the process, and continuing on without needing other people to follow, but just going a direction because I want to, because I feel the need to. That has been also a very deep lesson. And of course, not all the time it's been like super just having faith all the time. It's gone so much up and down, and I really had to look to other mentors and stuff like this to keep me on the path, because there's been a lot of times where I felt hopeless and like a victim and wanting to give up, But then there's also always this moment where I realize, no, there's not really anything else that I want to devote my life to. This is it. And then it comes back to the faith and then consistency and just keeping on. And that has been the path the last almost a year now. It's been in like 2 or 3 months. It will be 1 year ago since I posted module 1. And that feels kind of crazy to think about, but yeah, it's been almost 1 year. And now I've done module 2. And module 3 I will start with in a few weeks. Now I'm going to land in this and celebrate my completion of the module 2, and it turned out so good. It's so good. I'm so pleased with the final product, and I'm rediscovering my love for just a creative process of creating these modules. It's so lovely, and I'm so thankful. And I will continue on here at FitByFood. I'm so devoted to, because in the end, what it really comes down to, and I did a short podcast on this on Spotify. I have the FitByFood podcasts. It's just the word reverence sums it up for me. And the reverence is my relationship to the love of the knowledge of this whole FitByFood concept, the philosophy, the knowledge of what a plant-based diet brings for you, both for the body, that you receive the body when choosing plants time and time again, high carb, low fat, that you get your dream body without having to be in restriction and starving yourself, but you get that in return, and you also receive the health benefits. Like I will never get tired of that feeling of reverence that I feel when I think about this, when I think about my love for food, for fruits, for vegetables, for the earth. It's this deep gratitude. And that is what drives me to want to do this, even though when I have the feelings that my ego feels inferior, when I want to give up, that I worry about the future, money, validation, when I connect to reverence, then it's much easier to continue. Then then it feels like a certainty that I will, of course, forever do this. For my reverence for the body, for plants, and also for other women that have this coping mechanism. That is my go-to when I feel lost in faith. Then it's this again, the lesson of not focusing on external validation, but really connecting with the integrity and living the values of the company, which are self-compassion, reverence, and self-leadership. And all of these 3 are really on my own internalized level. I have to live them in order to send them out into FitByFood. And they are so internalized in this process. And for that I am very thankful, because it makes FitByFood as an entity really be about living what I preach. So if I look at it like that, if I don't look at it as a victim when I'm having my bad days, the day before my period where I want to give up, then I'm very grateful for everything that this company really is bringing to me. And for module 3, I'm also at this point getting certified as a breathwork facilitator, because I do believe that breathwork is such an integral part of this journey, especially for me, and I want to be able to give that and offer it to other women that also feel like this resonates. And in module 2, you get an introduction on breathwork, how you do it, and there's a breathwork session. And if you feel resonance towards that in the future, you will be able to do breathwork with me. And the idea is that I want to offer breathwork as an ongoing membership at a lower rate, just focusing on breathing together and really healing the relationship to the body by the breath and by focusing on breathing into our stomach. Yeah, I'm very excited for that. That's to come in the future. And module 3 is about the inner child. It's about healing the relationship with our inner critic and going more into self-compassion as an end result. And this happens very spontaneously without having any force included. Like there's no thing that you do these exercises even though that you have resistance, but you have compassion. Even though you have resistance, then you try to be curious about the resistance, and then you bring in the softness and love all the time. And I know when, like maybe 3-4 years ago, I would have resistance towards the idea of inner child work. And I wanted to be able to do it because I knew the importance and I understood that it will really catapult things for me. But I am glad that I honored that and didn't push through, because a year later it so organically went into that way anyway. I didn't have to push and force myself to do anything, but I genuinely felt called to start to explore this topic in this area. And since then it's awoken this softness in me that I really love my inner child, and this is what I want for you as well. And you might have already dabbled in the topic, that you have some idea what this means to have this sort of compassion for yourself. Or if you do not know but you are curious, Module 3 is a perfect exploration for this topic. And I'm also very excited to just do this module and discover my own journey with this topic and deepen it even more. So it's going to be beautiful, and that's probably going to be out sometime like almost before the summer, in a few months maybe. Because there's also a lot of triggering material in this module, so we will see how much I can do. I'm not going to stress. I've learned this lesson now. It's been 2 modules in, so now I know I can't force anything. It will not turn out how I want it to, but I need to honor my own rhythms, so we will see when it comes out. But thank you so much for listening to this, and I really enjoy talking about my own experience when it comes to my own deepening of integrity and showing up as a leader for myself on a next level when I'm creating this brand. It's a totally unexpected thing. I did not know that this would happen before I started, but of course, like now I feel like of course it happened. And it's a very beautiful process for myself in my individuality. And my hope is that maybe someone listening to this that's in the FitByFood world also has similar aspirations as me, and maybe you have similar issues or challenges, and maybe me sharing my own journey will inspire you to explore some of these lessons that I've mentioned. So again, thank you for listening, and I will see you in the next video. And remember, it is possible to get fit by food.